So I once heard that all sales are predatory. The nature of selling is predatory, and the reason is you'll never possess the absolute best product or service at any given time, and you always will have to try to convince a prospect that you have the best option for them. And this might be done by downplaying the negatives and emphasizing the positive aspects of whatever service or good that you're selling. And I mean, the way to mitigate that is just by being completely open and honest about the positives and the negatives of your product without adding any particular spin. Upfront, what you're doing is you try to find the best client for your product instead of trying to shoehorn your product into or service into to fit the client. Now, you know, you just basically you're coming from a client focused you're just coming from a client focused perspective. But when you're an employee of a company, when you're not running your own shop, when you're not an independent salesperson, when you're an employee, you have pressure. You have to hit your targets. And especially if you're an inside salesperson, then everybody that walks into your site, right? Every prospect or lead that comes through is a potential sale. And if you need to hit your targets, then whatever product that you have to sell is the right product for that prospect. And that's really it. And it's just a matter of getting the prospect to buy the good or service, right? Getting them to accept it. And that's really it. Because for a lot of salespeople, if they don't hit their targets, then it could mean a matter of not making income, or it could also be a matter of losing your job, right? And for the people that are more successful and ambitious, maybe they just see each lead, each person, each prospect as a an opportunity to achieve their financial goals. That being said, it's not a matter of trying to malign the sales industry or any particular company. It's just it's just about knowing as a consumer. It's just about knowing what potential risks exist as you go out there into the market, as you talk to salespeople that are there to educate you. You just got to know what biases they have when you're interacting with them. Now, the reason I'm talking about that or started off with that is because I saw this headline today. A man with autism told to pay $4,442 to get $1,750 after 3 years with a potential for one particular financial company. I thought it was really interesting, because I've never really taken time to look into this kind of loan, this type of product, but it really doesn't sound like a good product to me, right? I mean, a reverse loan. So unsecured reverse loan. Now, I mean, if you're going to spend this kind of money on something, I don't understand why it wouldn't be just maybe a high interest loan against a car, something that you would end up actually using, as opposed to just putting money into a an account. So just gonna go through this article and just you know just a little bit, and just go through what ways there are to protect yourself and other people in your life, especially people that are vulnerable. So, as mentioned, this person has autism, and I've just through my time, I've met other folks, people usually that are they're older or they just fall into a vulnerable category, and it becomes very it's easy for them to be taken advantage of. And you might think to yourself, well, who in their right mind would try to take advantage of somebody? I mean, take advantage of somebody, period. But why would you go after somebody that's most vulnerable? And again, it's because of that potential predatory nature that somebody might have in this sales field. They might see them as a low-hanging fruit, as an easy sale, as a way to maximize their income, and just to maybe just see another day in the business, whatever it is they're selling. So. Yeah, so for 7 months, Sebastian, I'm gonna say Viano, age 20, says he paid around $120 a month for a personal loan with online lender. I guess it doesn't really matter the name, so probably maybe I'll block it out. Which he hoped would help boost his credit score. But but for more than $840 that came out of his account, he received no money up front. They call this a reverse loan, or like a savings loan. Um, so he had signed up for a so-called savings loan, which requires regular payments but provides no cash advance, which the lenders who offer these financial products say they're meant to help improve their credit worthiness. The loans often come with high interest rates and steep fees. Global News has previously spoken to two borrowers from the same lender who say they didn't completely understand the terms of the savings loan and felt pressured to sign contracts while on the phone with the lender's sales staff. Uh, Now that's again, that would be debatable. Now that's a matter of opinion if they felt pressured or not. I'm sure you could pull up whatever it was the recording, but again, keep in mind the general nature of sales. Um, if you feel pressured into making a decision, you should never feel pressured into making a decision, especially when it comes to money. Usually, you'll have the opposite. I mean, if it's not especially with something like this, like you don't need the money immediately because first and foremost, you're not receiving any money. So, where's the urgency to make a decision when it comes to this? This is just a program to give them money. You're just giving them money, and at the end of it, you're going to be left with whatever you're left with. So, the question is, don't if this isn't really something that's time sensitive, you shouldn't feel pressured. The pressure should never be on you. It's on the salesperson because they have to make their quota. They have to do whatever it is they have to do, right? In order to stay with that company. But you don't have to do anything, and you should never feel pressured into making a decision on the spot. Never feel pressured into making a decision on the spot. That's first and foremost. Um, but Viano says signing over the phone was especially difficult for him because he has autism. The call was very loud, he says, with background noise from the agent's side making it difficult to hear and process information. Vino says he repeatedly asked the agent to move to a quieter spot. I said my autism can't hear you, he recalls, but the company, he says, did not accommodate his request. And so this is interesting though, but this part. So also he asked multiple times if he could hang up to be able to properly review the contract on his own, but the agent told him he needed to make a decision then and there. Right? So, and this is why I'm saying, like, for when it comes to people that are more vulnerable, they may not be completely aware of their rights. They may not be completely aware of how these products work, uh, or aware of anything when it comes to the actual interaction. They may feel intimidated. Like I mentioned earlier, I've dealt with folks that are older and they feel intimidated by the agent that they're working with, or the representative that they're working with from whatever company it may be. They feel intimidated by them, and then they feel coerced, or well, not necessarily coerced, but they feel like they have to make a decision right there and then. The only way to mitigate this is if you have somebody in your life that's vulnerable, because there's no real, as it gets closer to the end of the story, like right now all this stuff is just kind of goes through why he went through the loan, but closer to the end here, it goes over the options that we have for folks that may be in a vulnerable situation. Really, they can only give up 100% of their decision making power, or they can. So, right here. So, traditionally, Canadians living with disabilities have faced a stark choice between acting on their own, at best with informal support from someone they trust, or signing over 100% of the decision making power to another person through a trusteeship, arrangement, or power of attorney. Yeah, so I mean, if somebody doesn't feel like giving up complete power to somebody else, right? If they don't feel like giving up all the decision making power to someone else, and they don't want to just be left with the ability to make all the decisions on their own, they're really out of luck in terms of options. Now, it looks like BC has created, or there are some jurisdictions that have created like a middle of the road option, but that doesn't really exist, I guess, in a lot of other provinces, including Ontario. So, but I'm talking from a Canadian perspective, but really this is something that is just universal. Um, you need to have an awareness of the people in your life, the people in your close circle. If somebody is in a territory where they are vulnerable, so maybe it's any sort of developmental delay or the age, anything of that nature, right? Anything that would put them in a vulnerable category. You need to have an awareness of what it is they're doing. You may not have full awareness, but you have to be involved to some degree. I know it is kind of ridiculous. Like, who am I to say to what degree you should be involved in in your family's life or your friend's life? But they need support. They really do. Like the last person I dealt with, they felt like they couldn't go to any friends or family, and they had to deal with a lot of that stuff on their own. And if it wasn't for me taking all the additional time to sit down and work with them, then they would have been out of a house. And so it's really, it's really unfortunate that that stuff happens. It's reality, and obviously not everybody can take the additional time to spend with their family, their parents, or their brothers and sisters. But if you do have that ability to spend a little bit more time just to understand what's going on in their life, and just kind of being aware of the decisions that they're making, and just try to get them to run things by you, right? Like, oh, I'm thinking of doing this. What are your thoughts on it? I'm thinking of doing this, or what are your thoughts on that? Or just assisting them as they're making the large financial decisions in their life, just taking an interest in what it is they're doing in their life, and making just assisting them throughout it. Now, they may do stuff on their own, and then you can't take responsibility for that. You ultimately can't take responsibility for any of the things that they decide to do because they're their own person. But if there is any ability to be able to provide um, a little bit of time, a little bit of care, a little bit of assistance, I think it can go a very long way just in terms of diminishing these horrific stories that come through. Because now this guy is going to be out a fair bit of money, and I mean I don't know exactly what if this product was best suited for him. Give both parties the benefit of the doubt until more information comes out, but yeah, it just really sucks. Like if this wasn't a good product for him and he ended up with it and he ends up being a little bit behind in life because of it, it's really unfortunate. I mean, was there a way to mitigate this? No, it doesn't really seem like it. He was on the phone with this person, and then it looks like when his mother found out about it, that's when something got done about it, right? Which is so key, because imagine if his mother didn't find out about it, then this story would never have occurred. So that's why it's just important to have an awareness of what's going on in your in people that are in your immediate circle, at least. If we can all kind of look after each other, having an idea of what everybody's going through, and just seeing if we can help them out, it can go a very long way. Anyways, that's just my piece for the day, because this yeah, it's just always sad reading stories like this. Like if you feel like you read a story and you hear somebody might have been taken a little bit of advantage of, maybe, who knows? That's how they're positioning it. Not saying that anybody did, but you just want to make sure you're looking out for your folks. All right, take care.